For the past 20 years, the western United States has been under a mega drought. Utah is classified as one of those states.
We've had a couple years that have been a little wet in there, but if you look at the overall trends in the last 20 years, we've been classified, and the term that they're using is mega drought because the drought is so widespread and is so long lasting.
Right at the beginning of the summer, the governor came out and declared a state of emergency because of the extreme drought. So I think that raised awareness.
The city of St. George and the Washington County Water Conservancy District set out to do more than ever before when it came to educating the public on being conscious about water use by putting out posters, signs, and even hotlines.
We set up a water conservation hotline that people could call in, 627-4H20. They could call in and report any broken water sprinklers or somebody watering at the wrong time of the day. We were able to go out and educate the people that way.
Taylor said the city also used social media with daily water conservation tips and even left door hangers if there were problems reported. But despite one of the hottest summers on record and lack of moisture up until the end of August, water consumers must have listened as they managed to save significant water.
So if we look at our water data from June through September, our residents, our water users, they have saved 362 million gallons over the same period last year. And that represents about an 8.5% decrease in water use this year versus last year. And what's even more impressive is you take into consideration that we've added almost 2,000 new connections to our water system.
Our local citizens are awesome. They did an amazing job. And so when the message got out that we were in a drought scenario and we need to start using water wisely, they quickly responded, and we saw that occur. And so we're just so appreciative of our citizens here and what they did. We saw essentially an 8% decrease compared to last year in our water use. So even though our population increased by 5%, the overall water went down by 8%, which is a phenomenal amount of water.
And while culinary water revenues were down for the summer, Taylor said that every gallon not used is a gallon that can be saved for use in the future.
Kudos to the residents. They did a great job of conserving, and every effort we made this year will help us next year.
The savings were also reflected by the City of St. George Parks Department reducing use of secondary water by about 63 million gallons.
Parks, cemeteries, golf courses, open space. The City of St. George, I give kudos to the Parks Department. They were able to reduce their use about 12.5% over that same period last year.
A lot of the conservation efforts also have to do with developers and homeowners using local scape methods, planting native grasses and trees that do well in the desert.
The local scape, it doesn't have to look that way. You can still have a very water efficient landscaping and still get the benefit of the cooling effect and the visual effect. You can still have some nice looking desertscape landscaping.
Examples of these types of landscaping can be seen in the Red Hills Desert Garden. Provided by the Washington County Water Conservancy District, this 5-acre preserve showcases many different kinds of water-efficient plants.
We invite people to come up here to our desert gardens and look around and show that you can have a really vibrant, very green landscaping with very little water. And people are learning that, and they're adopting those practices, and so we're excited to see that.
The state is currently asking for input on its statewide water resource plan. This is an overall plan to address the water shortages or problems Utah could be facing 50 years into the future. With only one source of water from the Virgin River, Washington County must account for every ounce of water it uses.
So we get our water source from one supply, and that's the Virgin River Basin. And it's a very typical desert basin. It's very small, and we see a lot of fluctuations in that. And so one year we can have flooding, and then we can have 2 years of droughts. And so we always want to plan for the worst. We always want to think about how can we use our water wisely, because we don't know what's going to happen next year or the year after that. And we just have to make sure that we're using every drop of that water as wisely as we can, because it's just that one basin.
However, this accounting system can make it look like Utah and the county is expending more water than its fair share.
We account for every single drop of water, whether it's lost through evaporation or anything. And so it's the most robust, most transparent method that I've ever seen in looking at water measurements. And so it's good that we've taken that approach, but on the flip side, it's bad because we get compared to communities that calculate it totally different. And so they hear certain numbers and they see there's a gap, and they think it's because we're not using our water wisely here, and that's just not the case.
Fortunately, monsoon rains did come with the conservation this year, which also helped with the drought and less need for water. However, there is still a lot citizens can do.
We see a lot of water wasted at this time of year because the plants are starting to go dormant, but people keep their sprinklers on. So one of the easiest things people can do right now is dial back those landscaping clocks. Shut the water off because the plants just don't require it right now, and that will save a huge amount of water, and that's water that we will store in our reservoirs and carry over to the next year.
And if you're already conserving water outside, there are still things you can do on the inside by watching how much water you use. You might also change out shower heads and make sure your indoor plumbing isn't leaking. In St. George, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.